Hey guys, welcome back. This is SureBabe and this is your host, Chrissy Powers. I am excited for this topic today because it's something I am truly passionate about. I'm talking all about passion and how to find it and why it's important to identify your passion before building a career. I talked on a live on Instagram today and also on Facebook if you guys want to catch those, and I talked specifically about my own life and how discovering my passion would have saved me a lot of time and heartache in the early years, although I've learned so much from some of those hang-ups and some of those roadblocks and some of those mistakes that I had made earlier on in my career. But I'm truly now seeing in hindsight where I was thriving in my calling and when I was not, when I was in a career that really didn't fulfill me and wasn't using my gifts that I was born with. So today on the podcast, I have two guests. I have Heidi Pasley. She is a student of mine from my e-course, Find Your Voice, A Mindful Approach to Making Your Passions Profitable. And Heidi is super inspirational because she took the course after she had just had a baby. I think it was like 2 months postpartum. She had so many ideas, but not really anything to focus on. And she really didn't know what it is that she was meant to do. She had lots of things she liked, but didn't really know what her true passion was. And then 6 months later, she now has discovered what it is that lights her up, fills her with energy, what her passion is, and she's created her own online shop with hopes to maybe even have her own brick and mortar shop someday. And she just really is inspiring, and to hear her talk about finding that passion is amazing. So I'm excited for you guys to hear her story today. And then I have another guest as well, Jane Conley from Heal the Brain with Jane. She's an occupational therapist who is breaking all the molds in the medical world and creating a brand that is super fun and funky and completely different than what you would think when you hear the word occupational therapy or traumatic brain injury, which is the clients that she caters to. So I am so excited for you guys to hear both of those different stories today and how these people started off in a place of confusion and maybe not really knowing what to do with their gifts and talents and what that looked like in their calling or in their business, and where they have arrived today and the things that have got them there, the hurdles they've had to overcome, and the roadblocks that they still are overcoming. So if you at all identify with any of that, which I think is most of us, you will totally enjoy today's episode. Without further ado, I will get right into that. Hey, SureBabe listeners. Okay, today I have a very special guest. She was a student in my e-course, Find Your Voice, A Mindful Approach to Making Your Passions Profitable. And I've recently been watching what she's been doing on Instagram and am loving seeing her thrive and grow in her calling. So today I have Heidi Pasley, and she's going to be talking all about how she had a nudge for more and how that took her to where she's at today. So welcome to the show, Heidi.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm Heidi, and I am the owner of Petaluda.co, and what that is a vintage clothing shop online. It's on my website right now, and I wanted to share a little bit about how that just came to be.
Yes.
So, let me backtrack a little bit here. I was so just lost in how I wanted to minister to people, and I always knew I wanted to help people in a creative way, whether it be through like teaching art or yoga and whatnot, and those are all wonderful things, but it just didn't give me that spark that I was longing for. A couple months ago, I was supposed to go see Dave Matthews Band. Mm-hmm. I'm going to admit, they are my favorite. I love DMB. I was so excited. I was going to go to Phoenix to hang out with my friend, and we're going to go to the concert. The morning of, it was a Friday, I woke up with like the stomach flu, something terrible. There's no way I was going to drive to Phoenix. I don't think I would have made it like to the freeway from my house.
Yeah.
I was so tired and sick. I couldn't go to the concert, so I stayed home and just felt so sorry for myself. I thought, oh my gosh, I get to miss out on something else, you know, just really down. And whenever I get some downtime, I usually feel like I have to do something productive.
Yeah.
Even if I'm sick, it's like, and I have 2 kids and a husband.
Are you sure you're not a 3?
I know, right? Okay, in my health, I'm a 3.
Okay, there you go.
So I'm a 9 on the Enneagram. And so I'm in bed, I'm crying, I'm texting friends, like, Dave Matthews bad, I can't see them.
Yeah.
And then I thought, why don't I just do something for myself? So I got on YouTube and I started binge watching these channels of these ladies that I admire and I love, and they're all like vintage, fashion, thrift. I just watched their videos and got so inspired and thought, oh my gosh, I was given this word petaluda, which is butterfly in Greek. Didn't know why back in June. Like, I knew butterflies were a big thing. I had to do something with it. I thought it was a devotional. I thought it was some kind of like yoga retreat thing. And it could be these things, but it just didn't feel like, this is it. That night in bed, as I'm just feeling sorry for myself, looking at all these fashion ladies, I'm getting inspired. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I already shop this way anyways. Oh, it clicked. Like, second chances, vintage clothes. You can sell this stuff.
Yeah.
You love styling. You love creating outfits. You love getting people, you love taking people shopping and dressing them and seeing them light up. And it all just hit me.
Yeah.
So I think I had the stomach flu for a reason to keep me home so I could just sit on my butt for like 2 days and just absorb everything vintage, everything fashion, everything style. And it sounds superficial, but to me it was so life-giving and just, it was a wake-up call. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. And it all goes hand in hand.
That's amazing. So going back, so that was like, it all came together 8 months after you took the course. But going back in hindsight now, what things do you feel like helped prepare you for that? Like,
oh my gosh. I think just not giving up. Knowing that I had this unique gift and not being afraid to use it.
Yeah.
Because for so long I would just like put it on the wayside or think it was superficial.
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's clothes.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much more to life than just clothes. But I noticed it like really lifted me up. And even looking back, like when I was a kid or just growing up with a mom who's a seamstress, just connecting the dots, seeing how like, if you go on my Instagram, you'll see on my feed, like I wear a lot of black. I wear, like, that's my favorite color. My mom and I designed my wedding dress and it was black.
Whoa, I love that.
So, I mean, like like fashion and style, it's a statement for me. Like, who walks down the aisle in a black wedding dress?
That's amazing.
So
yeah,
like it just all connected. And I think that's why and it even came to me too, that visualization of the Pinterest board, my dream job. Like, oh, the racks. That's why those were there.
So when you were doing that section of the course, the dream job, you were doing the exercise of the Pinterest board, and what was on that is now coming to fruition in your life?
Yeah, the racks.
Okay.
Which is so crazy because my husband made the racks that I use now to hang up all the vintage clothes. But I hadn't even looked at the board for like a while, and then I saw just recently. There's racks on those pictures that look exactly like the ones he built for me.
No way.
Yeah, and just
that's amazing.
It's just so crazy that something that you can visualize and you just keep coming back to, keep looking at it, don't give that image up.
Yeah,
like it's gonna come.
Yeah, and then also you. I get the sense that you gave yourself permission to like fashion, but not only to like it, put your energy into it and follow that curiosity. Right. So I think a lot of us say like, no, that's just a side hobby. No, that can't be a career. Yeah. But somehow you gave yourself permission.
Right.
What was that? And what allowed you to do that?
I think for me, especially so with our second son, our first son, I wasn't able to breastfeed for very long. And so I know this is like so random. How did that, but it all makes sense. It'll make sense. And then with our second one, I was up to like 13 months. And I would say once we were done with that and like my hormones kind of settled down and I kind of felt like me again.
Yeah.
That is when I gave myself permission, like, oh, Heidi, like, shine, like, let yourself be you.
Yeah.
And also, like I had mentioned, my marriage was just barely hanging on. And once my husband and I started working on ourselves and our marriage, that's when I was able to give myself permission. Because for a long time, I thought I had to just do the things that people expected of me.
Yes.
My expectations of myself. So letting those dreams kind of not go necessarily, but I didn't take them so seriously.
Okay.
So I think once everything started to align, and it was funny because once I started following my passion, then my life started to align too.
Yeah.
So it's this full circle. It's the energy you're talking about.
It's like that energy of what you put in or what you give out, which is what you get.
Yeah.
And I mean, even when you were talking on the live just a little bit ago, your energy even changed when you started talking about like Paluda and how much it fills you up and how the meaning behind it is even greater than just vintage clothing.
Totally.
It's a desire to help people learn that they can have a second chance. And it's like, wow, like how meaningful is that? And like, that's what you're doing and that's your calling right now. And I love that you gave yourself permission to dive into that, because then you even said like your life aligned, your relationship, your marriage aligned. And that's because you're in your calling. And so I think it's so important that we do what we are called to do.
Right.
That's amazing. Do you feel like the course helped you let go of any negative beliefs or things that kind of tripped you up? Like there's a whole section called roadblocks of resistance in the course that are really helping you, because I think a lot of times we can even get to the part where we identify the passion and the goal, but we let the roadblock trip us up and keep us from actually pursuing it long term. And just for example, some of those can be, what will people think of me?
Yeah.
I don't have time or money for this. You know, gosh, like that's not what my degree's in. And what are people going to say about me if I start doing this now? And so what were some of your roadblocks that you have now blown through, or beliefs you've let go of?
Yeah. So I think for me, a roadblock is something like I would have all these ideas. Because before becoming a mom, I knew I'm an art teacher. That's my 9 to 5. I didn't have to think about like, what am I going to do? How am I going to help people? And, you know, I was doing that already. I wouldn't say that was like my passion, but I loved it. I loved being with those kids. I loved just teaching them about art and themselves through it. And so once I became a mom, I just was in this phase of like, what am I going to do now? Like, how do I do this? So I kept starting these little, I have air quotes here, businesses.
Yeah.
MLMs or...
Oh gosh, I've done like 4 or 5 MLMs.
Yeah, so... And
which, if you're listening and you do one, they're not bad.
You're not.
They just have to be like your thing. And
right.
It really wasn't mine.
I am not an MLM lady, and I have so many friends who are rocking it and killing it. And
yeah, me too.
It's amazing to see.
I know.
But that was just a roadblock for me, I would say. Like, I just, that is not my thing. And I am more of a creative in the sense of like, I wanted to create something that I made, or you know,
a product that you were offering, that you had your hands on, that you created.
Yes. So,
or even a brand, like you're creating essentially a whole brand. Petaluda is a brand of second chances with beautiful vintage clothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just nailed your mission statement.
Look at that. Okay, we gotta write this one down.
And this is what happens when you have a coaching session. No, just kidding. Just kidding. But no, really, I love it. This stuff fires me up, which is in my own life. I thought if I were to just remain as a therapist for people with eating disorders, I would not get filled up in this way, right? To help people that are little higher functioning. That was a word twist. So people that are higher functioning that are just really trying to grow in their careers and in life, it just lights me up too. Like that's the same feeling, the energy.
Yeah. And it just started literally 2 months ago.
Yeah. So you're in the baby phase, which is great.
Baby. I'm in that, like, we're in the newborn, we're snuggly and nice and warm, and, we haven't gotten to toddler yet. Hopefully we make it to, like, teenager and marriage. And But, so financially, I'm not seeing a huge profit yet. And I think in the past that would have totally stopped you. Yeah, like, and I don't want to disappoint. That's like the D word. If you know me, like the D word is the worst word in the vocabulary of my home, my life. Like if you say disappointed, that's like, it kills me. So, I never want to disappoint. And so if I didn't see income, I felt like,
that's a disappointment. So that's an old belief that you let go of.
Yes, because right now we are just, where the money that has come in is paying for the racks that were built, paying for the website that we launched. It's, so we're building it, and it's not a disappointment. It's just beginning.
It's exciting. And I think in the beginning, I mean, I didn't make for years I didn't make any money with online blogging. And this was like, I think Waylon was probably, Waylon, my oldest son who's 7 now, when I started blogging, he was 1 or 6 months maybe. I can't even remember. It was a long time ago. I've been doing this for a long time. And then I got paid for the first post when my second son was an infant. So
oh my gosh,
that's like 4 years ago. So I literally didn't make money for probably 4 years. And I didn't care. I did it for the love. And I tell people all the time, do it for the love in the beginning. I mean, obviously, if you have a different business, different business plans, different things like that, and if you're providing for your family, there are different ways to like set up goals and financial like goals. But a lot of times you have to put the money back into your business right away. And I'm actually learning that now. Now that I am making a profit, I'm like, wow, okay, I can put back into my business. I can change up my website. I can hire a marketing person. And that's my next step, which is kind of scary, but also really fun.
It's like you're in high school now.
It is. I'm like, wow, this business is going to high school. What can it do if it goes to college? And it's exciting to see you in that beginning stages of like, this lights me up, because that energy and that feeling and what you were saying will take you so far, way more than just seeing money roll in. Because I was just listening yesterday. I was telling you this podcast with Oprah and this high producer. What was his name? Tom. I can't even remember his name. And he had a 17,000 square foot house, 3 homes, and so much stuff. And he had a near-death experience. He was hit by a car, and he now lives in a trailer. And he has never been happier.
Yes.
And I was like, there you go. That just shows you that you can grow and have all the money in the world, and it does not fulfill. But what fulfills is being in the calling, and then the things that come out of that, which is like so much more than just your business. It's your life, it's your relationships. And so I love that you blew through that roadblock of letting go of the disappointment of having it be financially making money, a lot of money right away.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you feel like is one of the things that's going to keep you? So like growing a business and a brand is super fun, especially in the beginning. Yeah. And then I always like to think of it as like a relationship, where relationships, it's not an upward trajectory all the time. There's ups and downs, there's hills and valleys. And so when you hit a valley, what's going to be the thing that keeps you to keep climbing that mountain?
Just coming back to my true self. Yeah. Just remembering that this is what lights you up. This is your calling, and just in life. I have been through so many hard times.
Yeah.
It's not even funny. But I feel like a huge gift of mine too is just knowing how to handle change and not let change ruin my life. It helps traject it. Like keep going. Take it for what it is, but also move on and learn from it. And so
Just side note, doesn't change feel weird sometimes?
I kind of like it.
I love it too. Like I get inspired by it because I don't always like, I mean, I was telling you all the jobs I have. So clearly I like change, but I think sometimes we can get into a space, and I call it liminal space, where you're like, what do I do next? I don't know. And I'm doing this, but it doesn't feel weird. It's like trying on new clothes that might not fit you yet. Or like, I think sometimes you have to keep moving through that to arrive at the next level.
Yeah.
It's like that leveling up.
I feel like once you start getting comfortable, that's when the change is going to happen.
Yeah.
Like it's
It
just inevitable.
like that.
Yeah. Well, it's seasons. Like, okay, here we are in fall.
Yep.
Winter's coming. Like it just is. In California, we don't really see it.
Yeah.
But it's just going to happen.
Yeah.
There's always change. So it's how we handle it. That is just a huge, huge part of my ministry. And I hate to see people give up on things when life gets hard or when things don't go as planned. Like you might have to change the course a little bit, but don't give up on yourself, on your dreams. So
and I was just thinking, a practical thing you could do when you get to those lows or those questions is go back to that dream board and go back to your notes of what you wrote when you did the table of your true self, because your older self told your 20-year-old self, look at you now, like you have that and you have this and you're gonna be okay. And I think sometimes when we shift our perspective, then we can adapt and grow and feel like, okay, this is okay. Like it's okay to feel the way that I feel right now. It doesn't mean I'm going to feel like this forever. And it doesn't mean my business is going to stay here forever. There's growth that's going to happen.
Yes.
I even sat in my therapist's office, I think a few months ago, and I was just talking about like questioning and not knowing where I was going and like exactly what I was spending my time and efforts on. And she said, oh, this is exciting. Like, this is like, I know you're leveling up. That's how it feels. Yeah. It's almost like a spiritual awakening. If you guys have ever like read anything about that, it's the leveling up. And it's like, you don't have a grounding. So it kind of feels like you're flailing a little bit because your grounding is taken away. And then you level up to a new ground. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, if I can just shift my thinking from like, this is awkward and weird to this is change and growth.
Yeah. Yes, I love that.
That's the exciting part. I'm so excited for you. So and a thing that I do is like, and I think you should do, save the emails you get from people, the DMs, the comments that really mean a lot.
Okay.
And then keep looking back on those. Like when you feel like, oh, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I helped that woman right there. I made her feel so good in this outfit. Like because she really honed in on her style or whatever really fills you up and is like that response that you're looking for. Keep those.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Can I share a quick testimony?
Oh yes. Please do.
So I had somebody buy a blouse. I had it up for like 18 minutes and like she already bought it. Never met her, never met this woman, but she was local to Redlands. So I was like, yeah, just come over and pick up the blouse. Never met her. Yeah. And she came over and again, she's just coming by to pick up a blouse. You know, you think that's it. And I want this to be a ministry. So we were there and I don't know how we got on the topic, but she had shared with me that she and her husband were struggling with conceiving and whatnot. And it turned into just talking about our faith and, you know, we're going to pray for each other. And I was like, yes, this is what I want. It's almost like I'm like reeling people in, like, here's some clothes. Yes. But, hey, let's like dig deeper and be here for each other during these hard times. And like, this is going to change. Like, you're going to transform. And
That is amazing. That gives me chills.
I know. I love it.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you.
I am so excited for the future for you.
Me too. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you for your help.
Yes.
Such a big part in it.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, you guys, isn't Heidi's story just super inspiring? I think she represents a lot of us where we have different ideas and thoughts and we just don't give ourselves permission yet to go after them. And when you hear someone that does, it's just magnetizing. So I'm excited you got to hear her story. I wanted to let you know this podcast is sponsored by my free masterclass. I am so excited to dive even deeper into this subject. It's a masterclass that's called The 3-Step System to Identifying Your Passions. And I create a blueprint, so to speak, or help you, I should say, create your own blueprint to monetizing those passions. So I'm excited for that. Please take a look at that and register for this free masterclass. The link is in the description of this podcast. It's also on Instagram at Chrissy J. Powers. It will be on my blog as well, chrissypowers.com. Do not wait. The best money and time that I've ever spent is on my own personal health, be it coaching or therapy, or just something about learning more of who I am, whether it be taking the Enneagram. It's always been the best time and money that I've spent. And good thing is, this doesn't cost a thing. All you have to do is just register for free and show up and give yourself that time because you deserve it. You deserve to feel like the people in this podcast episode. You deserve to feel inspired and fulfilled in a calling that you know is unique and right for you. So I was almost going to say swipe up. That's Instagram, but click the link in the description of this podcast and reserve your free spot today because spaces are limited. All right, we'll get back to the show. Okay, everybody, I am so happy to introduce to you one of the sweetest humans I've gotten to work with. Her name is Jane Conley, and she's an occupational therapist. And I worked with her for a couple months last summer. And we helped her kind of work through some of the things that were keeping her from thriving in her calling. We tweaked some things about what she wanted to do. She has an amazing platform now and blog and voice and product that she's offering stroke survivors and people with traumatic brain injuries. And I loved her take on just her passion and calling in general. So I'm so happy to have Jane here. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Oh my God, Chrissy, I wish you could see me because I'm a little teary-eyed and like smiling ear to ear. Best intro ever.
Thank you. Well, that's why I said you're the sweetest person ever, because you're so real and authentic and you have such a big heart. And it just shows through, even on the phone. I can't even see your face. And I know that you're
I'm going to like cry and then there's no interview. So we need to chill.
Okay. Okay, yeah. We love each other mutually.
Let's talk about how I'm a disaster too, because that's also true.
Wow, you're just in the thick of it too. You're a mom raising 2 small humans, and you're also helping support your family, which I know tons of women are in that position these days, dual family. We just have to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you tell people who you are and what you do? And we're going to start from the very beginning of when we started working together.
Oh, okay. I love it. So I'm Jane Connolly. I'm an occupational therapist. And for those of you who don't know, an occupational therapist is similar to a physical therapist, but more focused on the upper extremities, so hands and arms. And our real focus is getting you back to activities of daily living, which are like brushing your teeth, washing your hair. And for me, getting back to really meaningful activities. So like when I work with people long-term after a stroke, it's like, I had one guy who really wanted to ride his motorcycle and I wasn't like super pumped about that, but I was like, yes, that's your goal. I'm into it. And so it's really about bringing people back to their lives and realizing that even if they have a disability, they can still be whole. And I was working at an outpatient clinic. I'm a stroke specialist and I love working with brain injury, but I was feeling really like, I don't know. How would you describe it, Chrissy?
You were being okay. So we started working together, and you initially were just kind of like, I want to start this Heal the Brain with Jane brand.
Yeah.
And we conceptualized together of like, what does that look like? What does the logo look like? What does the name look like? How long is it? And then you were like, hey, how do I do this? Like, you were already creating amazing content on Instagram. So we just tweaked a few things. I think I just kind of helped assist you in learning how to like do video and create some new ideas for like what would serve your audience well and get that message out there, your message to people. And then we dreamed like about like what would the future of your brand look like? What would be the thing that made money, and eventually like what would help you to sustain this business and brand. And then I feel like kind of like towards the middle of working together, you kind of had this feeling of like, I mean, I just knew because you would complain about the job, and not that that's bad. Like you were honestly kind of put into hard positions in your place of work, and you weren't able to thrive there. You weren't able to work the way you wanted to. So it was kind of clear. Then you said one day, I was thinking I want to do private practice. And I was like, yes, like, of course.
Well, from my perspective, it's so cool that you felt like I had like a vision, because I think I was trying really hard to have one, but I felt really like unanchored and sort of like, I know that I love my work like desperately, but I'm like, I don't know if I can do it in this context anymore. It was how I was really feeling. And, before like, but okay, so I have to back up. When I emailed you for the first time, just your response was like, I don't know, it was like a sign. Like it was like a go light, like at the stop. Like I was like, what? She responded to me. I for sure thought that it was going to go to spam and that you wouldn't respond, because my email was just like, I love you. You're amazing. Like, like you're doing great stuff, and I don't know how to do it.
Oh gosh, I love that email though. And this is, I talked about earlier about energy and like the energy we put into things and like what we put out there, we get back. And I feel like I could just like sense your authenticity even behind
that. I was just that you responded back. I was just so excited. And then when you're like, well, I think we should work together, it was seriously like, okay, like I guess I'm a star. Like I remember calling I called all my friends. I'm like, Chrissy Powers is like my mentor. So see you next time.
Oh my God. You're so sweet. I feel the same way about other people in my field, that I'm like taking their courses and I'm learning so much from them. And I feel like what you give or put out there, you get back. And so like that's, and honestly, I feel like things just worked out, like the universe and God, whatever you want to call it, just works things out at the right time, because I think Ruby was getting to be like 6 months old, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. But it was in the perfect time where I was ready to take on someone. And then you emailed me and I was like, yes, I can handle another coaching client. And so we started working together, and it was such a good fit. And I loved what you were doing. I loved that you were trying to use social media to get your voice out there, and I could assist you in that way. But I wanted to talk about like going back to where you felt, I don't know if the word was stuck, or you felt like you couldn't continue going on the way that you were going on in your career.
Yeah, totally.
That was the first indicator that something needed to change, right?
Yeah, totally. And it was like, it's such an interesting thing, because I knew I needed help with like the business and practical part, because I'm like a huge dreamer, but like the practicalities are like insanely hard for me. And then, but also like, it's such a like spiritual and mental thing too, of being like, okay, this is the path that I could take for the next 30 years. Like I could work at this hospital for the next 30 years, and like my family would be taken care of, and I would have good benefits and whatever, but I would not be fulfilling my calling like fully.
Yes.
And I felt like that was kind of where you came in and sort of made it okay for me to just be like, to say that. I don't think I had admitted that to anyone before. You asked like some really good probing questions, and like, well, where do you want this to go? And I felt so weird about being like, I want to have like a big following, and I want to help like people on the other side of the world through like my words. And it was like crazy. And then I was like, that's insane. Like, I'm Jane. What is happening? You know? Like,
Yeah.
But you were like, okay, all right, how do we make this happen?
Yeah. So it really just was like someone else kind of holding up that microscope or whatever of who you are, how you were wired, and then giving you that permission to go after that and redesign your life and your career. Because I think so many times we think I need to just do the thing that provides the most money in the moment or the thing that provides the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
And if that were the case, I would be working at an eating disorder treatment center that did not align with my values. I did not like how they treated their patients. I think you can totally identify with that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't filling my soul. So I love that you just mentioned that about your story as well. That was like an indicator or a red flag. There's something else out there for me, and there can be a better way. And then once you entered into that, like giving yourself permission, what do you feel like happened inside of you, like emotionally or spiritually, and then in your business?
Well, I think it's still like evolving. You know, it's funny because I can't believe it. It really hasn't been very long, like since we started talking. Right. And I think I started my Instagram in like January of last year. So it's almost coming on a year, and it's growing really steadily. But I think my challenge is just kind of sitting with the like discomfort of it not being where I want it to be, but it's like, it's actually going. Like, it's hard for me to see that. You know what I mean? Like, like I have like 1,700 followers, and I have like very engaged people who are amazing and have made my life better. And I've been on a podcast, and like, I'm on this podcast. Like, my life is made, right? Like, I have 3 clients. Like, I'm doing it. I started a nonprofit, but like, but yeah, it's like a constant thing of, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I think we talked once and you're like, have you ever heard of the Enneagram?
Yes.
And you're like, Jane, I think you're a 7. So I went and took the test, and I text you? I was like, I'm totally a 7. So 7 is like really, they're called the enthusiasts. And so I'm really enthusiastic and I have all this energy, but then I'm like, what are the steps? And you knew that like right away with talking to me. Like, you're like, okay, so I think we're gonna like, you know, let's start with like, I forget what you said the first time. It was so funny. So you're like, well, maybe we can get a list going. Like, so
yeah.
You're like, maybe a list would be good. Like, I think you're not.
I just kind of helped you organize some of these passions and these like, I think it was like you have so many ideas and passions, which is great because a lot of times people don't know their passion and they don't know what to do and they just feel unfulfilled. But it's like but then there's this other camp where there's people like you and I who I have a bajillion passions, but I don't know exactly where to focus and I don't know the next step. And so I think the work we did together and the work that can be done through my course is all about that next step in curiosity and then kind of making it legit. So I think I helped you a little bit with the making it legit part of like, I now get your emails and I love them. I'm like, she's using email marketing and she's like linking them to her freebies. And it's just amazing to see you taking those next steps. And then I'm so impressed that like, just even in that short amount of time, we just talked before I hit record and you said, I'm not there anymore. I'm not at that hospital that was draining my energy. I am now, I've created my own private practice and nonprofit. And I love that. Can you tell us a little bit of what that looks like today and what you're doing?
So I'm still like very much in the early phases of this. It's been such a learning process. And I have to tell you, like, there are new anxieties that I anticipated, like, which is good. But, you know, just like, will the people come? How will that look? And my husband, who's also a marriage and family therapist, he's just amazing. Yeah. He's constantly like, the people have come. Like, you have 3 people, like, you know, because I think for me, a full practice is like 15 people. And because the way I want to structure my life is that, I have 3 days working there, and then like a day doing content for free online and blogs and podcasts and everything, and then having a day with my kids. And it's like I'm getting there, and we're like getting by, and it's crazy. Like I think I just felt so like I felt stuck is a really good word. Like I had to do it this way, and that was the only way it was going to work. And um, it was so debilitating. And I feel like, yeah, there's times where I'm like, oh, I don't know, like, is this right? And I do things wrong and I have to like refigure it out. But I'm so much happier just like, I don't know, fulfilling more of what I think I'm meant to do, you know?
Yes. Yes. Oh my
What
gosh. This is so exciting.
One thing that you said that really like I thought about that really helped is that I think that word curious, like being okay with being curious about things, because and I think that your like background of being a marriage and family therapist, but also like an artist, is a
Mhm.
photographer, like you have the like flexibility, like mental flexibility to be like, okay, you're like a complex person and you want to be more than like a very clinical, like sterile OT. It's fine if
Yes.
that's like what you are called to, but I'm really called to like the human side of brain injury, the part that is like
Mhm.
that is encompassing of a lot of things. And like even with like my Instagram, it's super funky and like
I was just going to bring that up. I
yeah,
was going to say your Instagram is anything but sterile.
right.
It's so freaking fun. I
Well,
love
and
it.
like I have gotten like some criticisms from like different from like random people online who
Let's go there. Let's go there. What was the criticism and what did you do with
it
it?
was so interesting because I feel like if I hadn't really worked with you and kind of gone through, because initially like even starting an Instagram felt really exposing to me, and really because it's like it's so far from like the accepted medical norm, and I was really immersed in that and I still am. So being able to bridge that and like really just be like, this is who I am, even though I'm also like can be a clinical professional, was really scary. So I have this friend she's been in marketing for like 40 years, and she was like, when doctors see your Instagram, like they're not gonna take you seriously. And I was like, oh no, like is this affecting my private practice or whatever? But then I was like, doctors will take me seriously because they're gonna start seeing the results. And that has been true. Like my private practice, like the patients do clients, I call them clients, do so well. It's insane. But
Wow.
but my Instagram, like I was like, it's not for the doctors,
You're right.
you know?
So you identified, that was a key thing too
Yeah,
in our work, was identifying who your ideal client, ideal customer
right.
audience was.
Yeah, and like it's really not. Yeah, I was like, whoa, like that. It was so easy for me to be like, that's true, but it's not for them. And
Mm.
that's a big part. And like that I am for them. Like that is my heart. And then the second thing was from a woman who'd had a TBI, and she said that like my visuals were too loud, and it made her like feel bad, and um, that I wasn't taking care of this community by doing that. And, I just wrote her back and I was like, Instagram is not ideal. And using any kind of like technological thing is not ideal for someone post brain injury. But I hope that like my message of hope is something that you can still hear. And I was just, I just tried to be like kind about it. It definitely stung. It
Yeah.
took me like 24 hours to like get over it. But
Yeah.
but it was just kind of a moment of like, but also I have all these other people um, who are constantly like, oh, thank you for that. Like, thank you for that tip or whatever. And it just feeds me so much. It's like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And hopefully it feeds them because there's so much information that like, I mean, you feel this way, I'm sure. Like it's like when you figure something out in like motherhood and and there's a new mom and you just want to be like, dude, like, don't worry about that. Like, that is okay. Like, your kid is like barfing all over, infecting the family at Thanksgiving. Like, don't worry about it. Like, that happens, you know what I mean? And like, it's the same way with my job, but with like a lot of things where I know, because I've worked with so many survivors, that okay, this is what you can worry about and this is what you can't. And like, these are these like tricks and things that you can do, and that, your life is not over. And I think that's my biggest message. And if I had just like a really coordinated, like cool, Instagram that was like very linear or something, first of all, it wouldn't be authentic to me because I'm like the least linear person alive. And it wouldn't also be authentic to recovery, like to brain injury recovery. It's up and down and in and out, and it's very like individual. And I don't know, if I can find art that's like fun and cool and individual, it's like, look, like, we can all enjoy this together. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out.
That. No, I mean, my first initial thought when you told me that story was that you're repelling someone who is not your ideal client. And even though they might be a traumatic brain injury survivor or stroke survivor, you're getting even more specific. You're trying to pull in the clients that are going to want to work with you because you offer something that is so completely different than the standard medical system. You're offering hope and fun and like a new way of thinking about, recovery from a traumatic brain injury. And so you're literally going to repel some people. And I encounter that all the time. And that's okay.
Really?
And I do, on and off. And I get like messages of people that don't really quite understand. Most of the time, I think people just quietly unfollow, which is totally fine. But every once in a while, and it used to really affect me, and would take like maybe even sometimes weeks to get over. And that's judgment and criticism. And ultimately the feeling underneath that is rejection.
Yeah.
And I think that's what keeps people from going forward in what it is they're meant to do, because they're afraid of that so much. And so I get to the point where I actually can thank the person, and I like kind of send out like a blessing in my mind to them. And I'm like, thank you for that. I mean, honestly, if we're being open and honest, a few of the criticisms have come in the podcasting world, and that's
Really?
because I'm figuring it out as I go. But I absolutely love it. So I'm like, I'm not going to just stop because I don't have a studio, or because, I'm new at this. I'm learning as I go, like you said, which is just part of the journey for me. And I've had to realize that we live in a world now where everything's online, and we think we can sum people up with one glance at their Instagram profile or one listen to a show on their podcast. And that's impossible. It's impossible to even completely know my husband. And I lived with him and loved him for 10 years. So it's like, we are so multifaceted. And so when I can wrap my mind around that, when I receive a criticism or a judgment from someone, when I wrap my mind around that it's like fully impossible for them to know me, then I'm able to just kind of put that out there like, wow, they must have been having a bad day, or I'm just not for them. And then I'm like, that's okay. Thank you. What can I learn from this? Then I'm able to receive the lesson that I believe each one is teaching me. And so sometimes it's like, oh, maybe the sound was bad on that episode. What could I do to fix that? Or maybe it's just like, oh, what is my ego saying right now when that person criticized me?
Yeah.
And it usually is the latter. It usually is having to do with the ego. And I'm usually having to say, okay, wow, how do I let my ego step aside so that my full and truest self can come forward, and that I can keep going in my calling?
That's actually
even more.
Been my mantra too, is like, I I think a lot, like, I'm like, there's probably people who are better than me who could do better than like, because like there's so many people in this world, and like I've met so many like incredible occupational therapists, some I'm very close with. I'm like, maybe they're better than me, like at this, but
Yeah.
but they're not maybe called to do this, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability.
Exactly.
And like I just keep like thinking about who I'm serving, and then that like really kind of helps me to stay in the game, because it's so vulnerable. Like putting out, like, especially like if I'm like put out a picture of myself, um or like a picture of or like a drawing that I made or something, I'm like, or a product, I'm like, oh my God, like it's
It's
a
vulnerable.
crazy, like, difficult feeling. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Never
It
know
is.
to
And
come back.
I love that you're doing it though still. Like even though things are uncomfortable, you're doing it and then you're learning something new each time from having done that uncomfortable thing. Like even the conversation you had with your colleague about your Instagram being not professional enough or whatever she said.
Yeah.
That that was not comfortable to hear. However, what going forward did you learn from that? Like what did you gain from that? Like you gained, I feel like you gained a whole much more confidence in who you were because you just were able to nail it for me. You were like, well, that's true. That's not for doctors. My account is for people that want to live a full and whole life after having a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah. No, I think that it's crazy because the audience and the friends that I've made, I've actually like met some incredible survivors in person, and through the internet, which is like crazy to me. I mean, I met you through the internet too.
Yeah.
It's just nuts, but it's like I'm constantly like, I'm so grateful for this tool, and it has really made me more confident. Um, like when I go and I talk to doctors, and I live in kind of like San Luis Obispo is somewhat of a small town actually. And sometimes they'll be like, heal the brain with Jane. Like, oh, like you can't heal the brain. Like, and I'm like, no, the brain actually heals itself. But just like how you're treating an infant, if you put an infant in a sterile environment with no, and don't interact with the infant, they don't develop well. And the brain, post brain injury, and throughout our life, we're learning more and more, is the same. So I'm like,
Yeah.
and the real like origin of heal is actually to be made whole. And I think that you
Wow.
can be whole even while you're healing. You know,
I love
don't
that.
you? Like,
I love that so much.
it's crazy. Like people will come in, and they have relearned how to walk, talk, like all of these crazy, difficult things. And they're maybe like 10 months post stroke or post brain injury. And they're like, well, but I can't write, or I can't like do this. And I'm like, hold on. Like, what does that mean to you? Does that mean that you're like broken? Like, cause you're not. Like, you're such a badass. It's insane. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Yeah.
And
Which is the brand that you created, Heal the Brain with Jane, was that type of uh um the feeling behind it was that you can do this, like you can have fun again.
yeah.
That is the whole thing that I feel like you created. Why don't you tell everybody like the story of what happened to the client that came to see you now in private practice? Because I feel like this is a really good indicator that you're in your calling and that the money will flow to you after. Doesn't necessarily have to happen right away, but it's like, how you said, well, it's not about the doctors, it's about the clients. Well, what happened to your client when you took the step from that steady paycheck benefits to now opening up your private practice? Why don't you tell everybody what happened?
It is. It's like, it's so crazy because it's just the model is so much better for the patient. So coming to outpatient, so my model for my private practice is that I have a office that you can come to, a clinic, and we work there, and I do like, ultrasound and whatever you need there. But then I also go to people's homes, and I train their caregivers, and I give them like these like full pictures of their own bodies, and like little handouts, but they turn into like these 40-page like books. It's like, you can do this, you can do this. And it's like games and then practical things. And it's crazy because this woman who like could not lift her arm, she had really dense hemiplegia, which is when you have paralysis on one side of your body. And now she can lift her arm and she can squeeze like enough to pick up a ball. And I had been working with her for a year at the outpatient clinic. And then once we went home, that is when she started to really like just take off. So that's been really, I knew that would happen because I like, not because I'm omniscient, but because like it makes sense. Like they need more support because it's psychologically exhausting, physically exhausting, and I don't know, everything saps your brain when you're recovering. So the idea that I expect her to go home and remember her exercises is like ludicrous, but that's what I've been doing for years, for my whole career. Yeah. And I would give them a little handout and I would make notes and like I spent time on these things, but it didn't work because it wasn't their body. And I also wasn't training their caregivers appropriately because I didn't have the time. And now with my private practice, I have the time and I take it. And it's precious to me, and it's been really cool. Like,
amazing. So that's also something that you should hold on to when you feel like judged or criticized or a roadblock. Like I say in the work that we did, and also in my course, we talk about roadblocks. And so I feel like that can be a roadblock when you're doing something new, anything new, rewriting the system, changing it up. You go back to the proof of like the person that you helped and the advances that she made and then the people you've connected with. I absolutely love that. So that's literally how we blow through those roadblocks, is by proving to ourselves like, oh no, I see the proof right here. And how you feel in energetic wise in your body also when you're doing this kind of work. Yeah. So how does it feel now to be, I mean, I know there's fears. I know there's still like, oh, these things are kind of up in the air, but how do you feel differently now that you're not working in that old place of work and now you're really building your brand and your own business?
Well, it's so interesting because my anxiety has been like more in certain areas, but so much less. Like I didn't realize how much I would like dread going to work. And and I in OT school we learn a lot about like work-life balance. And like it used to be that that was like the phrase, but I just recently read something by some like PhD OT person, and they talked about like integration, like having a more integrated life. So like your work and your play and your work play. What's the other thing we do? Work, play, rest. So those are the three. They're more of like integrated. And so I feel like that has been like my biggest lesson, is that like when I'm working, like really working in someone's home, I feel like I'm playing. And then, I mean, obviously the charting is always going to be work for me, and the logistical things that I have to do are always they're going to have an element of work, but it's interesting. And then like the rest comes easier because I'm not always like taxed by the environment that I'm in. So I just feel like my life is, integrating more, and I do feel more like this is who I am. And I'm just going to finally own it.
I love it. Own it. It's amazing.
It sounds so cheesy, Chrissy, because it is cheesy, but I'm cheesy.
Own that cheese, girl. You're amazing. Okay. So what does the future of Heal the Brain with Jane look like right now in this moment?
Right now, I'm really focusing on building the private practice part and kind of investing in that. And then so this is a crazy story, but I was playing around on like designing like mugs and t-shirts and stuff for people to wear when they're working out, like post or during recovery and stuff. And then like a blanket that you could bring to the hospital, like that kind of stuff. That's more like that. It doesn't say stroke survivor or brain injury survivor all over it. Like it's like more subtle, but like a reminder that you're doing awesome things. And I was like playing with this necklace, and the word onward came to me because I feel like that's like what you would say, like if you're going into battle, but it's like also just like so positive, like onward, you know? And
Yeah.
anyway, so I like made this little necklace, and I was like, okay, silly, and put it away, you know, because I'm always doing like weird little projects. And then that night I got an email from this mother who has a 12-year-old daughter who had a traumatic brain injury. And she was like, hey, I love your site. And I was just wondering if you have any idea of like something that I could get for my daughter that would like hold significance for this year, but also be subtle. And I was like, what? Well, yeah. So I like got her address, and I'm going to send it to her. And it just came in the mail. It's so cute. So that's my latest thing, is which I feel really kind of weird about, because I don't want like so far I've made such cool connections with the people that I have on Instagram. So I'm worried that jumping to selling things, even though it like supports the work, you know, and supports it'll go to my nonprofit. I don't know. I feel super weird about that. Like that's another leap that I'm like, oh boy.
Let's work on that. Yeah, that's like obviously a hurdle or a roadblock that you have to blast through again. So that weirdness of, okay, I'm doing something new. What are people going to respond to, or how are they going to respond to this?
Well, are they going to feel like I'm just selling them? You know, like, are they going to feel like,
yeah. How can we change that? How can you change that, that question? Like, instead of, are they going to think I'm selling them, and to like, what am I giving them?
That's true. Like I do.
What am I offering?
I do feel like it, you know, I think like I have had personally like friends and survivors who I worked with, or clients who become friends, who I think like just really deserve to be like honored, you know, and also the caregivers. And so I just want something that they can look at that's like, I don't know, it's just like a reminder, like a subtle reminder, like, oh, you know, I'm doing this work. You know what I mean?
I love it. I think it's offering a product to,
Well, of course you have it. You're the best.
No, I just think it's just that next innovated step, and that when you take those steps, you do question like how will people respond to this, but that doesn't mean that it won't be good.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that it won't be without some criticism, but that doesn't mean that you will not find the people that need this. And I think you're seeing that as you're paying attention to what comes to you, and just like that example of, you made this little necklace, and then this mom reached out to you and she really wanted something for her daughter. And then it was like, you had that. And so I feel like those are the things that we have to pay attention to, that point to maybe that next curious step. And there are plenty of things that I have done that are like, that was fun. It wasn't that profitable. It did like, it's not worth my time really going forward, but it always has taught me something.
Yeah,
and you never know, like you just never know unless you put yourself out there. And so I think instead of saying, okay, how, are people going to think I'm just selling them? Instead of saying, that's the fear. So labeling it and being like, yeah, the fear is that people are just think I'm going to sell them. But who am I? What has my mission statement always been? How do I put that even into the products that I'm offering to people? Right. And when you use even the change of words, like from sell to offer, I feel like you can even change your mindset faster that way, by saying, I'm offering people this product. I have it available to them. Like, I'm not selling them. You're not throwing it down there. You're cramming it down their throats. Like you're literally
have to get it.
Exactly.
And that's such a good point, because I just want it to be there for them should they want it. Like should you want like a little like trinket or token or like something to wear to therapy, where it's not like hopefully gives you something. Like this shirt that I really like, it says like, there's no beauty without brains. And just kind of like owning, because, well, I could go on a whole tangent, but the body image post brain injury is really difficult. And So yeah, I just want things that make people feel like really good and like that they're badasses, because I said that before and they are. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
People are so amazing. Like
They
really are. The people that I've gotten
really
to
are.
work with like have forever changed like my mind and my heart. And I think that's, I think that's part of why I'm doing it. I hope.
And I see it. I mean, I see that energy going through you, and I see how you affect people, and it's just like a light. Like, you really are a light in that world. And I love how specific you are with how you are helping people with brain injuries, and then specific to even your brand, like knowing yourself and saying, I'm not sterile. I can't just post something that's just bland. Like, I'm going to post that funky picture, that painting, and I'm going to talk about how you can get to that by doing this exercise. So I just think you're right on track with who you are. You're authentic and you're in your calling. And so I'm so glad you brought up the fears and the anxieties, because that's the truth, is that whenever we do things, it doesn't mean that the anxiety or the fear goes away. It just means we have to find ways around that to say, okay, how will I work around that fear, or how will I work through that fear so that I can continue doing what I'm called to do? Because if you stopped, then you have to think about all the people that don't benefit from you. So like, even if you stopped offering the product that you're trying to sell, who's going to miss out?
Right.
Like, ask yourself that. And then it's like this whole new way of thinking that I have to produce this
Because
thing.
seriously, it could be like 2 people.
It could be, but hey, what if
Yeah.
it's 2 people? Doesn't even matter. And I just think you're so inspiring in this space, and I think you just need to continue going. And I'm so happy that I got to be a part of that journey, a little bit a part of that.
Huge part of it, Chrissy. Oh my God.
Well, thank you so much. And I am just excited to, continue to see you and your business grow and thrive and all of the things you're doing. So thank you so much for sharing your story. Why don't you tell people where they can find you and all the things that you offer?
So you can find me at heal.the.brain. with Jane, and or www.healingthebrainwithjane.com. And and I'm on Facebook too with the same handle as Instagram. And I love everyone who comes and follows and joins along with me. And I just offer hope and inspiration and help for people post-brain injury and caregivers.
Yes, that's so important. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Jane, for being here.
You're awesome, Chrissy. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that you guys resonated with these stories today, and I hope that you feel a little less stuck and that maybe you have an idea of what the next step looks like for you. And I hope that you will be joining me live on a Friday, and then I have a few other dates as well. I'm doing 4 Masterclass episodes, and then that is it. So I will be taking a break for the holidays, but I'm so excited to pour into you guys over the next 4 days doing this free Masterclass. So make sure that you click the link in the description of this podcast and reserve your free spot, because spaces are limited. And as I should let you guys know that you can all buy my course, which will be available on Friday as well. It's revamped, it's just updated, and I'm so excited to have a community finally around this. There will be a free online Facebook community for anybody that joins the course. I will be popping on live for 6 weeks to answer questions and to kind of help you guys if you're stuck anywhere. And then it will be a community of people that are doing the same thing as you, that are trying to grow in their careers and in their lives personally and professionally. So you will have a free community around that, and I'm so excited for what this course can do for you. So definitely check out Find Your Voice, a mindful approach to making your passions profitable. Will be available on my website, chrissypowers.com. Starting on Friday, the cart will be open for only 6 days, so make sure you take advantage of that, and as well as the free masterclass. Thank you guys so much for being here. So much grace and gratitude sending to you all right now.